Okay, so this is the start of our lecture for values, variables, and types. And this is, um, we're just building the foundation for stuff you're going to be using for the future. But yeah, so before I even get started, I want to tell you guys like just the format of like the lesson. So the format is first you have to learn like the basics and like the theoretical stuff, like how variables work and like what all the definitions and stuff. And then after you learn the definitions, then I'm gonna send like the practice, because you're never gonna really understand something until you start like practicing it. So I want to make sure that after you guys learn the basics and like the definitions and stuff, then you guys start applying what you learned, because you're not gonna learn how to code by watching other people code, right? Or reading about it. You have to really just get in there and start coding. So yeah, with that out of the way, yeah, let's get straight into values and stuff. So first we're going to talk about what a value is. So values, there's different values in Python. So the first example I gave was like 3, or let me annotate. So the first example I gave was 3, right? So 3, oh wait, this is a terrible color. 3, and this is what we call an integer. So an integer is just, it's just same thing in mathematics. So like if you remember in math, I guess all the whole numbers, 0 and negative number, that's the integer, right? So you're not going to have any decimals. So something like 3.5, that's not going to be an integer. Okay, and for anything that has a decimal, like 3.5, I don't know, 3.49, anything like that, we're going to call that a floating point number. So remember, so 3 is going to be an integer, so int, okay? And then the floating point number is called a float, okay? So this is going to allow for decimals, and then the other one doesn't, okay? And then there's another data type called the string. So string is going to allow you to have characters and letters. So these two, they're not going to allow you to have any letters or characters, but the string is. And yeah, yeah, basically it for that. Let me clear my drawings, and then let's go to the next one. Okay, so here is, we're going to go over a variable assignment. So first, you're going to have a variable here is x, and this is what we call the value. So we're assigning the value of 8 to x right here. So if you remember correctly, this is going to be an integer, okay? So when we ask the question, like, what data type is x, okay, we're going to get the answer is x is going to be an integer, okay? X is an integer. And what is its value? Well, the value is going to be 8, because we set it equal to 8, right? So we assigned it to x. And the next one is, because you see this decimal point, right? And you don't have the quotation marks, this is going to be a float, okay? So when we ask, like, okay, what is the data type? That's going to be a float, and the value is going to be, this long floating point number. And then same thing with message, message, we assign it to this value, and then it's going to be a string, okay? And okay, so that's how you assign a variable a certain data type and value. Next, we're going to go over variable names. So in programming, it's usually recommended to do something called camel case. So each first word is going to be in, you're not going to capitalize the first word, but then you're going to capitalize every single word after that. So if I did something like my baby brother or something, then it would be like my, and this would, oh, someone's coming in, my, and then the next word would be capitalized, and then the next word after that. So that's what we call camel case. That's just an example. And there's some words that are predefined in Python that you can't call it. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say we wanted to call our thing false, right? Well, we can't do that. We can't do like false equals 1 or something, or false equals high, because it's already predefined in Python, okay? So you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to assign this value to it, because this is already predefined. So it's like reserved, okay? So think about these keywords as reserved. And once you know how to code and stuff, like, you won't have to like memorize this list and stuff. You're going to just know. So yeah, that's how you assign variable names. And next is arithmetic operators. So how do you add, subtract, all of that stuff? It's actually pretty easy. So it's the same thing as just regular math. So in this case, as you can see, I wanted to add x plus n, right? And then when I printed it out, it's going to give 6 because x was 2, right? And this was 4. So then you add that, and that's going to give you 6, right? It's going to give you 6. And you can do the same thing with multiplication, subtraction, and all that. So you can do x divided by n, x minus n, x times n. And one more thing is you can reassign your variables. So first you see n is equal to 4, right? And let's say I wanted to make it so it's like a value in terms of x. I can reassign n to 7. So at first, before anything happens, x is 2, right? And n is 4. And after I assign it to this, notice the equal sign. You have to have the equal sign or it's not going to reassign. So after that equal sign, we're going to have x equals 7. And it follows the rules in PEMDAS. So if you've done like algebra, for sure everyone knows this. But yeah, it follows PEMDAS. Okay, clear my drawings. And then next is string operations. So string operations, they're not going to be the same, or like in theory, it's going to be like similar. So we can think about it like x plus y, right? And let's say x is 1, y is 2 or something. It's like the same thing. It's going to be 3, but there's no values, right? In strings, there's no like certain value, like a quantity. There's no quantity. So there's not like, okay, hey is equal to 5 or something. It's not like that. It's just letters and characters. So you're not going to be able to just add it like 1 plus 2, you know? But instead, we do something called a concatenation. It's a big fancy word for just like combining strings together. And basically, if once you concatenate it, z is going to equal to hey boy, okay? Because you added x and then you added y. So you see x is hey, and then all we did was we concatenated it, so we added the y. And then if you just put it together, you're going to get hey boy, right? And that's how you add strings together. And then if you want to multiply strings, because you want to do the same string but multiple times, you can just multiply it by 3. And if you see that, it becomes whoa when you have that one string. And then next, let's go. Next, we're gonna have comments. So let's say you're writing like this program, right? We're writing this program, and then let's say x equals 5, y equals 7, and then let's say I want to just comment something like, I don't know, this is cool, but you don't want to run this is cool, right? Because that's not actual coding. Like this isn't an actual language, right? So this is not going to work, right? So just in case people want to write like English in the middle of it, we have something called comments. So an inline comment is you use a hashtag before anything, so it doesn't run anything afterwards. But this only lasts for like one line. So let's say I do hashtag whoa, and then I did something afterwards. Let's say like I don't know, OTC or something. This is not valid. So this hashtag only lasts for this one line. Okay, it's only gonna last for that one line. So let's say we wanted to do like multiple lines, right? Like we want to do like an entire paragraph and stuff. If we wanted to do that, then we're gonna have to use triple quotation marks. Okay, we're gonna use triple quotation marks to like wrap everything within it. So you're gonna say like hi, bye, why, and you have to use triple quotation marks in order to wrap all this in, and that nothing's gonna run within that block. Okay, so yeah, I think that's the whole pres for now. Okay, so now that, is there any questions for like this theoretical stuff? Like, is this stuff hard, or is it like pretty self-explanatory? Okay, I'm gonna just assume that wasn't too hard. Okay, let me give me a sec. I'm gonna share my editor. Okay. Everyone has the lesson1.py downloaded, right? Make sure to open Visual Studio Code, because I want you guys to follow along as I code. Okay. So here it is. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. So here is Visual Studio Code. And if you downloaded the lesson1.py, you should be able to have this here. And I'm pretty sure I set up everyone's Python code and stuff, or like their editors and stuff last week. So you guys should have this. If anyone doesn't, make sure to just like DM me or something and I can help you out. But yeah, so we're gonna just basically start filling this out because we want to apply what we just learned from the presentation into the code, okay? So here, the first question is we have to create an integer and then print it. So if you remember from before, you can just create an integer by saying x, my variable x, and then I can just put an integer afterwards. So let's say I wanted 8, right? And then I can print, and then you put whatever you want to print within these parentheses. So if I printed out x, so our integer in this case is x, right? And then the value of x is 8. And then we print it out, and we expect to get 8. You see that? So we got 8 because yeah, we printed it out. So next, if we wanted to create a float, we can do the same thing, but remember floats have decimal points afterwards. So let's say I want to do like 3.1415, something like that. I can print out x. And then now, if you notice, x starts with 8. We reassigned it to 3.1415, so it's no longer 8 after this run through. So you see that? It prints out 3.1415. And now it went from integer, so now it's a float, okay? So this is a float because you see those decimal points afterwards, right? So, yep. And then afterwards, let's say we wanted to create a string. We can create like a new variable. Let's say a string equals hi, what's up? And then if we wanted to print this out, we do the same thing. So print parentheses, and then we want to print out whatever is within it. So a string. So if we print that out, we expect to get hi, what's up, because our string is going to be called a string, and our value is hi, what's up, and what got printed was the value, which was printed here. Okay. And then now we're going to get to arithmetic operators. So how to do like addition, subtraction, all of that stuff. And in this case, let's say I had a variable x is equal to 2, right? This is our first integer. And then we had y equals 5 or something. And then we can print these two out. We can print out the sum of the two. So this is a sum of the two, right? And if we print that out, you're going to get 7 as expected. Ansh, how do you add a new folder? So what you do is you want to go to File, right? And then you go to Open Folder. So, oh wait, you can't see my whole screen. Give me a second. New share. So, do you see my screen now? My whole screen, right? So, give me a sec. Let me redo that for you guys. So we go to File, Open Folder, and then you can just create a new folder here. So I can create a new folder, like whatever, right? And then once I create that folder, the Visual Studio Code is going to open that folder, and then you can start putting stuff inside, okay? And like that, select folder, and then you see that? You create that new folder, and then I can create a new file through that folder. But I'm going to go back to the other one. But yeah, that's how you can do it. You can create a new folder. Yeah. Okay, so let me go back to the editor. So here we added it, and let's say we can also reassign it. So we can set like a new variable z equals x plus y, and z is equal to sum of the first two also. So we can also print out z, and you can print that out, and then oh yeah, you'll see it's going to be 7. And then let's practice subtraction. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. It's going to be zx minus y. Print that out. z is going to be subtraction of the two. And let's run that. And so 2 minus 5 is -3, and printed it out. So yeah. So let's keep going. Yeah, this stuff is pretty self-explanatory, I feel like. Let's create this one. So something like that. Y equals that, and we can print out. We can multiply the two like that. X times y. And we can multiply that, and then you just get this huge number. And let's say we want to divide them. We can do that too. So we have two floating point numbers. We can divide them like that. And always remember, like we can always create like a new variable and then like assign it to that too. Like we don't always have to print it out. We can sometimes, like if we wanted to, like reassign it to a new variable. So next, how to convert like an integer to a string. I don't think I put this in the presentation, but like let's say I had x equals 5, but then I didn't want it to be x equals 5. We wanted it to be something like 5 like that, right? So let me first print the data type of x to show you that, so that we would know if we converted it. So first, type of x is going to be, it was 5, right? So that's going to be integer. So let's say we wanted to make a string. So we would do x equals str, and then we can make it a string. So let me print the type, and then let me also print the value too. So here, here x is going to be an integer, right? Because we didn't put the quotation marks around it. But then once we make it a string, we're going to expect to have we're going to expect the type to change into a string type. And let's run that. So you see that it switches. So there's both still 5, but now the x has become a string, as you guys can see here. It says class string, okay? While the first one is still an integer. And we could also so when we change it to a string of 5, it's the same thing as saying this, where we put the 5 in quotations. It's the same thing. Like if I ran this here, you'll see the class is a string. So that's all we're doing. We're basically adding the quotation marks on the side. Next, let's convert a float to a string. So a float, if you guys remember, you have the decimals afterwards, right? So we have that. And let's print out that value and then print out the type as well, so we know, what data type it is. And then if we convert that to a string, we just put it in the function str, and it's going to output a string back to us. And then we can print out y, print out type y, and we're going to expect the first one to be a float and the second one to be a string, right? Because here you have that floating point number, and then we converted it to a string here. Okay, so let's just run that. So exactly what we expected, right? So we had the float there, and then once we converted it, it becomes a string. Okay. And then next, converting a string to integer. If the string is like a number, we can do that. So let's say the string is 5, and we want it to become a number. So let me just first print out type of C, and we can change this into an integer like that. Z after that. So let's run that. So first, you have a string, because you notice the quotation marks, right? So quotation marks indicate it is a string, right? And then you see the output, it said it was a string. And then here, it becomes integer because of the function int, okay? And I'm going to explain more about functions and why these data types even matter later on. But it's important just to know, like, they exist. Like, you have different data types and how you can convert between them. But I'll explain more as to like why they matter later on. Yeah, so we can do the same thing with float. You guys can try that out, but I don't think it's too meaningful to do that right now. I think here, here's a Boolean. Oh, I didn't go over the Boolean variable. Okay. So a Boolean variable is basically a variable where it has only two values. There's only two values for a Boolean variable. It's either true or it's false, okay? So Boolean variables, Boolean is a data type, okay? So if you remember what a data type is, we have integers, strings, floats, and Boolean is just another data type, okay? So this is just another data type, okay? So there's two types of values for Booleans. There's true and then there's false. So why is this important? Why would we ever use this? Because let's say we wanted to test whether or not, let's say we have a door, right? And then we wanted to test like, okay, if you have a certain passcode, then you can get in, right? So we have to be able to test like, do you have this passcode and is it like correct? And then see if we can go through after that. So we have to have a true, means like, okay, then you have the passcode is correct, right? Is correct. And then false is like if it's not correct, so you don't let them in. So you're supposed we need like variables that can test whether it's true or not, okay? I'm not sure if that analogy was perfect, but yeah, it basically tests whether something is true or not and whether you should continue to let people through or something like that. Yeah, we're gonna work with if statements and stuff, so conditional statements and stuff, and that's gonna make it more clear like how we use it. But yeah, for now, a Boolean variable has two types of values, and that is true and false. So we can just say true, right? X is equal to true. Make sure to capitalize the T, and then we can print it out. So this is a Boolean, okay? So it's gonna be a Boolean. So let's run that. You see that bool? Yeah. So we got a Boolean variable by doing that, and then we can do the same thing with false. Like we can do y equals false, and then do the same thing. Type of y, and then we're gonna get false from that, and then Boolean. Okay. And I'll explain more about how to utilize it later on, but just know that these are like our building blocks, okay? And I'll teach you how to stack the blocks later on, basically. And you can convert Booleans to integers or floats. So what I mean by that is, and this is at least like more common in like electrical engineering, but like true also stands for 1 and false stands for 0. And if you know how like data works, our data is in binary. So binary means like there's two numbers. There's only it's called base 2 basically. So binary is base 2. Okay, this is gonna be hard to understand if you don't have like an electrical like engineering background, but like basically how it works is when we measure whether to like when we measure stuff in binary, you have base 2 and the only two possible values are 0 and 1. So that's how our computer runs all of our data. So like everything is in binary. So like 8 would be like 1, 1, and 1. And yeah, our computer just flows like that and it uses ones and zeros. I can explain that later on if you guys are interested, but I don't want to like blow your minds. But just know that there's like a reason for why we even have ones and zeros. And yeah, I can explain like more about like data representation in a computer. But yeah, for now, just know that true stands for 1 and false stands for 0. Okay, and we can that's why we can convert it into an integer. Okay, so we can print that out, and we would expect 0, right? And it's the same thing with float because like yeah, you're gonna get like 0.0 if it's false, and then 1.0 if it's true. Okay, and then let's keep going. Actually, this is an if statement. I'm not gonna teach if statements yet. This is like a little too much because this is still like introductory stuff. But I will teach you how to do it. Input. So an input is basically your program is gonna let you interact. You can basically interact with the program, right? So for all of these, what we did is we first give the value, like we just give the value. But like, what if we wanted the person doing the program to give in the value instead. So like there's no predetermined value. We want it to be done on the spot, right? That's where we have something called an input. So we have input, so we're asking people for their input, I guess, and then we assign it to X, okay? So let's say we said, give me a number or something, and then let's print X to just test it out, okay? So what I mean by that is when I run this, it's gonna say, give me a number in this terminal, and then I say like 1, 2, 3, and then it's gonna print out 1, 2, 3, okay? But the thing is, these inputs, they're not, actually not, like just because you said, give me a number doesn't mean the thing you put in was a number, okay? So like, what I mean by that is just because I put 1, 2, 3 doesn't mean this is an integer, okay? So right here, remember I put the 1, 2, 3, it doesn't mean it's an integer just because I put in 1, 2, 3, okay? All of our inputs that we put in are gonna be strings, okay? So once I print out the type, you're gonna see like Python file in terminal, and then 1, 2, 3, you're gonna see it's a class string, okay? But then let's say like we wanted to like print out the number but divided by 10, right? So let's say our job is to print out the number they give us but divided by 10. Well, we can't do that if it's a string, right? Because a string is just characters and letters. It's not like actual numbers that we can quantify and stuff, okay? So then if we can't do that, then we should instead convert it into an integer. And that's where all of these conversion functions come in. So like, let's say we wanted to print out like the number divided by 10, then we can reassign our X, because right now it's a string, we can reassign it to an integer. Okay. Oh yeah, also, wait, Akshay, I just saw your message like pop up on my phone. Are you in our Discord?
No. Wait, where is that?
Okay, I'll send you the link, okay?
Okay.
My bad. Give me a sec. Yeah, it's always better if you can like practice, because I feel like watching other people code is an entirely different thing from like coding yourself, you know? Okay, I sent it to you on a messenger. You should be able to join, and then it's on our resources channel. Okay. Okay. Anyways, so here you can convert our string to an integer. Okay, and then let's just make sure that we were able to convert it here. Okay, and then let's run that. We give me a number, 1, 2, 3, and then boom, it went from string, and then we made sure to convert it to an integer here, and then when we printed it out, it became an integer. Okay, so we're going to be able to print out, let's say x divided by 10, and that's going to allow us to actually divide it by 10. Okay, so let's do an easier number. Let's do like 100. So you see that we were able to divide by 10. It's going to give us 10.0. So let's try it before we even converted it. So this is before converting it to an integer, and see what we get. Okay, so x divided by 10 here. Let's see what we get. 100. And you're going to see it's not going to allow you to do that because strings aren't actual numbers, right? It has to be an integer or we can't divide it. Because when it's a string, it's just characters and letters, and dividing it has no meaning. So that's why you have to convert it to an integer first and then divide it. Okay. So always know inputs, whatever you put in, the variable is going to be type string. Okay, it's going to be type string when you input it, or once you put it in, basically. Yeah, I think that's basically good enough for the first lesson. Does anyone have any questions or anything? I'll make sure to like put this stuff in the Discord channel too. So like, let's say you're working with it from scratch, you're gonna be able to download it, download my answers, and then basically whenever you run into any problems, you can just like refer off of it. Okay. So let me save this, and then let me rename this actually. Okay, got it. Yeah, I think that's basically it for the first lesson. Yeah, make sure, I think I added some other resources too, like the practice and the presentation. So yeah, make sure to look at that stuff when you have the chance, okay? And yeah, that's basically it.